Saxon Math 7-6, lesson 120. You guys, this is the end. Our last lesson of the year. Now, you will have probably noticed that your book does not end at lesson 120. In fact, it goes on through 138 lessons. We are not going to do all of those lessons, and I'll explain to you why. The most practical reason is that your older siblings in Algebra 1 run out of lessons at 120. So their book is done at 120, and I don't think it would be fair at all if you had to keep doing 18 more lessons while they finish. That would be another month, you guys. That's not fair. You don't need a month more math than your older siblings. So we're all going to stop at the same time. Caleb is stopping at the same time too. Now, what about the material in those lessons? Does that mean that I am depriving you of important opportunities to learn? No, because all of this material will come at you next year in Algebra 1/2. That's the pre-algebra book. John calls it Algebra 1/2 instead of calling it pre-algebra. But next year, we will cover all of that material and you will not miss anything, I promise you. So that is why we are stopping when we're stopping, and I'm promising you that everything will be okay. So this is your last lesson for the year. Next week, I will have a review lesson, and then we will take the final just like we did before spring break. We'll do the same thing. So I really have a problem right now because Gracie's sitting next to me and wanting to be petted. So right now I am scratching her ears with my left hand, but I need both hands in order to write, because one hand has to hold the paper, and so I have to kind of stall for time till she gets tired of having her ears rubbed, which, you know, that could be a while. Good girl, Grace. What if you took your nap again? What if you went back to sleeping? Now she's looking at me with big sleepy eyes. What if you went and took a little more of a nap? Drop. Good girl. Okay. Good. All right, this lesson is not difficult, but it is important. It is about classifying triangles. Okay. This will become important as we go on, doing more work with triangles. Needing to know what kind of triangles they are is useful. And what I want to make really clear right now is that we can classify triangles by the length of their sides, or by the size of their angles. Okay? All triangles are three-sided polygons, right, that are closed, but there's lots of variation within that. So first I want to talk about triangles. I want to talk about the sides of triangles. So I'm going to draw, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put all of this into one big chart. Okay? So here we'll talk about sides, and here we'll talk about angles. Okay? Interestingly, within each category, there are three. This is getting really fancy, isn't it? I think it'll be fine. Okay, so when we classify triangles by their sides, there are three different kinds. There's equilateral triangles. All sides are the same length. Okay? There's isosceles. In these, they can look quite different, although honestly they usually look like this. Two sides are the same, right? These two are the same. I'm gonna put these, we use these little marks, they're called tick marks, and they help us see what's the same in triangles. And when we put these little marks, it means that they match. Notice how they each have one little line. And then the third one is called scalene. All sides different. And these are hilariously hard to draw sometimes because our brains just tend to make things kind of perfect-y. That one doesn't look all that different. Just pretend. All the sides are different, okay? So all sides are the same, two sides are the same, or all sides are different. Okay? This is classifying by sides. Now, let's talk about the angles of the triangles. And I think you've seen this before. An acute triangle. Let me talk about a right triangle first, because that's kind of the standard that we judge everything else by. A right triangle has one angle that is exactly 90 degrees. Okay, that's how we measure angles, is by degrees. 90 degrees is a perfect straight corner, right? And we use this little sign to symbolize it. Okay, so that's called a right triangle because it had one angle, A and G, is equal to 90 degrees. In an acute triangle, all angles are less than 90 degrees. And in, whoops, tried to draw the picture in the wrong box. Here we go. In an obtuse triangle, one angle is greater than 90 degrees. And it would be this one right here, right? That's a big angle. Okay, so we can classify triangles this way, and there's oh gosh. Relationships between these, and this can get confusing because the words start to swim. Okay, equilateral triangles by definition have to be acute triangles. Okay, let me just show you a picture of that. When we have an equilateral triangle, all the sides are the same. Right? All the angles are the same too. They all have to be 60 degrees. Okay, we're going to talk more about this, about why exactly that's so, but it's true. There's a relationship between sides and angles. So if all the sides are the same, then that means that all the angles are the same. So an equilateral triangle must be an acute triangle. Okay? An isosceles triangle can be, whoops, ignore that. It can be acute, right, or obtuse. Okay? And then a scalene, the kind with the wink wonky sides, that can be any of the three either. And if you didn't believe me, I could draw you a triangle to show you all of those variations, but I'm not going to clutter your brains with that. So it's equilateral triangles that must be acute triangles just because of the evenness and the uniformity of them. This is important because this is what John chooses to ask you about in some of these practice problems. Sorry for the shadow. One side of an equilateral triangle measures 15 centimeters. What is the perimeter of the triangle? Well, what you're supposed to catch here is that equilateral means equal sides. So if one side is 15, then all three sides are 15. So the perimeter is 15 times 3. An equilateral triangle is also an acute triangle. True or false? Yes, we just talked about that equilateral triangles also have equal angles. They're all 60 degrees. That means they're all less than 90 degrees. All acute triangles are equilateral. True or false? That's false, because we said here that isosceles and scalene can be acute also. Two sides of a triangle are 3 and 4 inches. If the perimeter is 10 inches, what kind of triangle is it? What type? Okay, so we use the information about the perimeter to figure out that the third side must be 3, right? Because 3 plus 4 is 7. 7 away from 10 is 3. That means the sides are 3, 3, and 4. So that means it must be an isosceles triangle, right? Because we have two sides that are 3 inches long. Is every right triangle a scalene triangle? Yes or no? Let's look back at our chart again. What's a scalene? Is every right triangle a scalene triangle with all the sides are different? No, that's not true, because here's a right triangle that is not scalene. Here's an example of one. I can make one that's isosceles. Here, I'll make it exaggerated so that you can tell. This and this are the same, but that's longer. So this is a right triangle, but it's not scalene. Scalene would mean all three are different. I can make a right triangle that's scalene, right? None are the same there, but this is an isosceles triangle that is a right triangle. Okay, so that's a little bit headbendy, those crazy questions at the end. The main thing I want you to zoom in on in this lesson, I'm having a hard time turning the page. The main thing I want you to zoom in on is that we can categorize triangles by sides and by angles. And while there's a relationship between sides and angles, I just really want you to focus on understanding what those 6 words mean, because we will use those in the future. Dun, 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 dun. Lesson 120 is complete. Yay, students. I will see you next week to give you a lesson to prepare for the test, to help you know what to review. But I can tell you right now, do your homework. That's the simplest, most important thing you can do to prepare for the test. The final exam is to do your homework, do it conscientiously, do it completely. You'll be in fantastic shape if that's what you do. Follow up on any problems that are confusing you. If there are any lessons that are making you just routinely confused, I should say, not upset, message me through your mom and tell me what they are, and I'll help you straighten them out. Okay, I will talk to you next week. Congratulations, goodbye.